there is in your movie, it's beautiful. And in one extent, when we saw your movie, in one extent, the American dream doesn't exist anymore. Because when we saw like TV series like The Wire or Breaking Bad or your movie, the first impression is that the American dream doesn't exist anymore. You agree with that?
En fait, on a beaucoup de séries télévision et il y a un message qui est important, c'est qu'on a l'impression que le rêve américain n'existe plus.
Wow, and 10 film festivals, that's the most intense question I've ever heard.
Par rapport à participer à plusieurs festivals, je pense que c'est la question la plus intense qu'on m'ait posée.
I once heard referred to The Wire as Baltimore being the forgotten American city. But as a young child and as a boy, as I left, I always saw it as the beautiful American city. So I feel like with the movie, based upon your paradigm, if you see the glass half empty or if you see the glass half full, is what you take from the film. I believe if you're an optimist, you believe that that young boy will find his way to his mother and one day he'll be a good person in the world. But I believe if you're a pessimist, then you think, you know what, well, there's no way he could drive a car. There's no way he wouldn't run out of gas. And you believe that maybe he would in fact turn into his uncle. I believe if you're a pessimist. So.
Tout d'abord, je voulais donc rendre un hommage à ma ville, Baltimore. En fait, le message par rapport à ce film, c'est un message très optimiste. Dans la vie, si on a un verre qui est à moitié plein, il faut aussi le remplir. Et voilà, je voulais montrer quelque chose de très optimiste par rapport à l'histoire de ces garçons qui ne rencontrent aucune difficulté, qui sait conduire, qui n'ont jamais en panne d'essence.
Hi, good afternoon or evening, I guess. As an African American from North Carolina, studying in Paris, I was excited about the film festival and about this film specifically, but as an African American living here, it concerns me that this gentleman here asked the question and that there's an impression that that is what African American experience is in the United States. And you and I both know that that's not the case. I know this is your vision and this is your film, but is there a responsibility and I know this is your vision, so I'm trying not to ask you a question that requires you to speak for anything beyond your own film, but I guess it's difficult that as I travel around and even as I live in Paris, I believe that images like this are how we are perceived as African Americans. And this is one man's journey, but I think that, I don't know, do you understand what I'm getting to?
I understand completely.
I'm just going to translate your question. Donc je suis américaine, hein, vous êtes originaire de Caroline du Nord et je voulais donc connaître en tant que originaire africaine américaine quelle était votre vision et comment vous étiez perçue aux États-Unis et surtout votre vision.
Well, I believe in America, and I believe as me being first of all, I've never accepted anyone calling me black because I'm brown. Okay? That clearly, this microphone is black, but I'm brown. And I think it's very important that the world know that we aren't monolithic. And I'll speak slowly so you can translate it. And clearly now, because the country has come such a far way, and they have elected, President Barack Obama, I feel me as an artist, I don't feel any. Oh, really? Did the French government turn me off?
That only happened in China.
So first of all, I'll say we aren't monolithic. There are many different stories we can tell, and we shouldn't feel or pressure to tell a certain type of story.
Donc tout d'abord, je veux dire que je suis pas noire, mais je suis marron. Comme ce micro.
No, and then and the last thing that I will say is, regardless of what happens in the story, ultimately it's about a boy's emotional journey, and so if you are connected to the film emotionally, it does happen to take place in a world of drugs and takes place in a world of violence. But the film isn't really at its core about that. It's about an emotional journey.
La clé de l'histoire de ce film, c'est surtout l'histoire et le parcours de ce jeune garçon et toute l'émotion, tout le sentiment, tout le parcours de la vie de ce jeune garçon.
One more point to that. One more thing. And I find Tyler Perry movies more offensive than this. Tyler Perry movies?
Ah, yeah.
More
I got it. I heard. Et il pense que les films de Tyler Perry sont un peu plus agressifs que son film.
Bonsoir. J'aurais voulu savoir si c'était le premier rôle du jeune comédien qui jouait avec Common et comment vous l'avez trouvé, parce qu'il est vraiment extraordinaire.
The question was about finding little Michael Rainey Jr., the boy Woody. Michael's first movie, he was 9 years old, and an Italian director saw him in a music video on American television and said, "That's the next kid for my movie in Italy." They find Michael in Staten Island, New York, fly him to Italy at 9 years old and teach him fluent Italian. And he acts and emotes in this heartwarming performance in Italian.
C'est un jeune acteur de 9 ans, c'est son premier film. Et en fait, il a été découvert dans une vidéo par un producteur italien. Et il a été envoyé en fait pour participer et a appris l'italien.
So, just went through, I truly believe Michael is a godsend because we had a very, very tough time finding the boy, and if you don't find the right kid, the movie doesn't work. And randomly, or not randomly, actually a godsend, a celebrity photographer in New York City knew one of the producers and knew Michael.
En fait, il dit que c'était une chance incroyable d'avoir découvert ce jeune garçon. Et un des photographes l'a découvert et a dit voilà, c'est vraiment une future grand talent.
Can you talk about your inspiration behind the film and your journey as a filmmaker between the choice, the choosing the story to making it with these stars and getting the support in order to get it?
Let's see. Well, my journey as a filmmaker, I mean, I grew up a kid in Baltimore, loving movies, and then my parents separated, and me and my mom moved to North Carolina, and I always loved films, and then I got into films in California.
Donc, je suis originaire de Baltimore et mes parents se sont séparés et nous avons déménagé en North Carolina et j'ai toujours eu la passion du cinéma.
And then, because I had an actual uncle who I spent time with as a young boy who happened to be, unfortunately, a drug dealer in Baltimore, and he would pick me up and take me driving through the city with him at night, and I would be out with him to 3, 4 in the morning. And I always thought that was very interesting. And then it wasn't until years later that I met one of the creators of The Wire, who was a former Baltimore City police detective who had done surveillance on my uncle and is a person responsible for my actual real life uncle still being in prison to this day.
J'étais très proche de mon oncle, qui vivait donc à Baltimore. Je passais beaucoup de temps avec lui. Et effectivement, mon oncle était trafiquant de drogue. Donc je passais beaucoup de temps et il m'a appris à conduire. Et j'étais avec lui souvent très très tard dans la nuit.
Yeah, and so basically it's just it's a story inspired by that relationship. And at the end of the movie, people always ask, what happens to Woody, the little boy? Well, he makes a movie and he travels to Paris and shows it along the Champs-Élysées.
Donc voilà, effectivement, c'est une relation, cette relation avec mon oncle m'a énormément inspirée. Et aujourd'hui, on me demande ce qui s'est passé avec ce petit gamin Woody. Et c'est un petit peu, quelque part, mon histoire. Voilà, je suis venue à Paris et je voulais présenter ce studio. Et c'est un petit peu la continuité de tout ça.
Thank you very much.